a clamant direction by other means, the far Republican side is using the anti-vax sentiment to radicalize the Republicans. Um, the weekend's anti-vaccine Klan rally in D.C. was heavy on the violence, inspiring the rhetoric and fascist recruitment. Now, the defeat the mandate's Klan rally on Sunday in Washington D.C. was not exactly a blockbuster event size-wise organizers had hoped to turn out. The event's planners had predicted over 20,000 people, but less than that showed up. But more reasonable estimates suggested it was fewer than half of that who actually showed. But despite the paltry turnout, the event was deeply troubling to experts who monitor the far right movement. The tone and tenor of the occasion were so hyperbolic and self-aggrandizing, creating exactly the sort of conditions that will further radicalize ordinary Republicans and stoke more violence in the right wing. Disgustingly, one of the main speakers was Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's the son of the Democratic scion who was assassinated in '68. Robert Kennedy has spent the past few years becoming increasingly unhinged anti-vaccine activist, but his presence on Sunday was even more alarming, considering the role that the Kennedy family plays in the imaginations of the QAnon sycophantic cult. Many QAnon cult members believe that JFK and John F. Kennedy Jr. are hiding somewhere, and that they're still alive. That's what there's and basically Robert Kennedy's deceased uncle and first cousin respectively. The QAnoners believe that they're still alive and secretly supporting Donald Trump, which I doubt they would. Simply by showing up, Kennedy validated these kinds of um, despicable claims. The situation got much worse when he actually spoke and told the crowd that anti-vaxxers have it worse than what the Jews did during the Holocaust, which no, they didn't. Um, even in Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps into Switzerland. You could hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. Kennedy said he claims he visited East Germany in 1962 with his father, and he met people who had climbed the wall and escaped, so it was possible, and many died, but it was possible. Kennedy's analogy is incoherent for obvious reasons. Does he think that East Germany was a Nazi state, or did he not know that Frank died at the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, and was widely criticized for being offensive? The Auschwitz Memorial responded with the tweet describing Kennedy's speech as a sad symptom of moral and intellectual decay. But the speech wasn't just offensive; it was fucking dangerous. It doesn't matter that Kennedy didn't come right out and call on people to commit violence like Trump does. It's inciting to tell anti-vaxxers that they're victims of oppression that was worse than what the Jews faced under the Nazis. It justifies violence as a form of self-defense. This is why experts in the far-right organizing and violence were alarming. Ben Collins, an NBC reporter who has been covering the rise of American fascism, was especially concerned by this output. Um, Kennedy was just one of many who made the comparison Sunday, both on stage and in the crowd, and there was also a lot of comparing the plight of anti-vaxxers to that of black Americans living under segregation. Meanwhile, the Klan rally organizers pretended theirs was a message of diversity and tolerance, which it wasn't. Prominent anti-vaccine activist and Klan rally speaker Del Bigtree insisted that this is a movement of unity, which it's not. And if you have problems with any problems with race or religion or sexual preference, then I don't think you're truly representing this movement. In reality, however, as Will Carlos of USA Today wrote, hate groups and the far-right activists are using the anti-vaccine movement to recruit, both online and off. Brian Hughes of the Polarization and Extremism Research and Innovation Lab at American University had explained to Carlos that the far right sees anti-vaccine sentiment and COVID denialism as a market that they can exploit for views, for clicks, and for merchandise sales. Now, indeed, these kinds of groups are heavily represented in the crowd at the Klan rally. As the Salon alum and current Daily Beast reporter Zachary Patrizio noted, the far-right fanatics were out in full force, from the extremist members of the hate group Proud Boys to rank and file sycophants who consume everything that conspiracy theorist Alex Jones utters. But it was also true that more ordinary Republicans also showed up, and there were even people claiming to be disillusioned Democrats, which they weren't, although this is a common enough lie on the right and should always be taken with a grain of salt. Now, either way, what is crucial to understand is that with the far right and hate groups, they're plugging into what they call an anti-vaccine discourse, and they're trying to lower more conservatives into becoming even more fascistic and more supportive of the violent rejection of democracy. And similarly, fascists have also been using anti-abortion demonstrations also to be able to recruit things. Um, Now, for the last year, being anti-vaccine has been an easy, if often deadly, way for ordinary Republicans to express their hatred and disdain for President Joe Biden, and basically they're trying to spite the Democrats. Faux News and the GOP, Faux, which is not even a real news organization, and the GOP leaders have encouraged their followers to reject the vaccine at all costs, and basically as a way to show solidarity in the right and make life harder for those who voted against Trump. It's an ugly and dangerous behavior, but it has been effective at meeting the Democratic triggering goals. Now, Biden's approval rating um, has been dropping as a result of the prolonged pandemic. Democratic voters who were more likely to make personal sacrifices like mask wearing or social distancing to curb the pandemic, they have been made to suffer the indignity stemming from a prolonged pandemic, even if their vaccinated status has largely prevented them from being the ones filling up hospitals. Republicans are 3 times as likely to be unvaccinated as Democrats, and that's why the anti-vaccine ideology makes a perfect recruiting ground for fascist people. And there are a lot of Republican voters whose hatred and desire to despite the Democrats has led them to gamble with their own lives by refusing vaccines. It's not much of a leap to believe that such folks are open to taking things to the next level and to reject democracy and embrace an authoritarian ideology for the same vindictive reasons. The anti-vaccine discourse is a perfect space to blur the lines in between being a petty partisan who is mad about losing an election and being an outright fascist who no longer believes in holding free and fair elections. Now, if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King, and also hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.